Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. You guys frozen? Is Dean's Wi-Fi carrying over? You pixelated?
No, you're good.
I think I'm good.
All right.
My name is Stratton Brown, aka Strat Daddy. I retired from being a competitive Settlers of Catan player just to come back and work in real estate. I'm back in the game.
That was a big
Back.
move.
A little bit about me. Dean was hating on me, honestly.
I was not hating. I was living vicariously through you. I want to live that life. I've done it before, and I want to go back, dude. It's a good life.
Bro, settling 3 times a day is a lot of thinking, a lot of deals being done. Like I negotiated during that Christmas break more than I've ever negotiated in my life. A little bit about me. I have scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures. We have a 7-figure real estate portfolio. And right now we're still on our 0 to 1 million challenge. I got started in real estate after playing D1 football, having 0 life skills. And now, because of real estate with 0 life skills, I've been able to create a great life for me and my family. We have the master of hair with the hair out, Mr. Jason Pritchard.
Hair is out. All the Deal Champs gear is out. Everybody looks sharp, dude. I love it, man. Hey, guys, it's your other host here, Jason Pritchard. Backstory on me is I worked in corporate America, slaved away for 15 years. Hated my job, was unhappy with my life. We burned all of the boats in 2014, started investing full-time in real estate and have not looked back since. We've done over 500 deals in that time frame, and our real estate portfolio with our newest acquisition, one of our biggest deals of the year, just crossed the $17 million mark. We bought a $5 million industrial warehouse out here, man. So that was a
big bump.
That we did.
That was a big bump.
A big bump to the portfolio value there. So yeah, man. As we always say, my goal here with the pod and our goal is to always transfer as much real world knowledge as we can to you guys, so you can learn from our mistakes and get to where you want to go faster.
And Mr. Captain America, you need to put your chest up a little bit so they can see the swag.
There we go. How's that?
There we go.
What's up, guys? Dean Rogers, your other co-host here. Started my career in the NFL. Then I transitioned to corporate, then into real estate. Been investing in real estate for just over a decade now in Central California. We've done over 700 deals, have an 8-figure rental portfolio, and coaching students how to get started in real estate with wholesaling. And you guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
Awesome. So today we're going to talk about the biggest losses, biggest wins, all that great stuff from last year. If you are tuning in right now, do not forget to hit like and subscribe. We're getting famous on the internet. Dean's making it happen.
Getting famous.
We have legitimately 10x our YouTube viewership.
Oh, yeah.
We have legitimately 10x our YouTube viewership. So we're trying to get more famous. If you guys like this, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, share it with your friends. But we'll start with this. We need to give this a title. What should the title? We should do this episode every year. I don't know what we're going to call it, but it should be a catchy title. I'll leave that up to you, Dean.
Recap is probably not a catchy enough title, but we'll definitely think about it.
That's trash.
It's a good show, though. I feel like this is an important one. Everybody is like kind of in that new year, new me thing, and I like reviewing what we did, what we lost, deals we lost on. I know we're going to talk about that, the deals that we won on, and try to help as many people as we can. I mean, I was thinking about this today, and this is just a tangent, but I'm going to say this. I want to give ourselves a little pat on the back, dude. Like I'm very proud of all of the consistent effort that the 3 of us have put in, dude. Like we planned out the beginning of this year. I'll tease the big event that we've got coming in April, but we've got monthly events coming up. We've been doing this pod consistently. Our businesses is growing. You guys are actually like getting a peek behind the curtain from people that are really in the business. This is not a bunch of bullshit. Like we are actually doing deals. We know what's working. We share our losses. We share our wins. So I think this is a really good episode for people that are ready to get into the business this year.
And a quick shout out to the boys who are the partners. This has been the easiest partnership I've ever been a part of.
Yeah, that's true too, dude. Yeah, honestly.
It's really rare. It's really rare.
Really rare.
For people to work together it's been 2 years now that we've been putting in the work. Actually, it's been, we're going on our 3rd year, the start of our 3rd year doing business together. And most partnerships don't make it because, business is tough. Life is tough. You said it right there, Jason, that most people aren't consistent. So people fall off just from that standpoint alone. But it's been super fun to work with you guys. And I feel like we're just barely getting started. I know I've been saying
just
that.
barely hit our groove. I feel like
this
we're in the
last
groove
year,
now, dude. Yeah.
I've been saying that with my full-time real estate investing business. That feels like we're just getting started. And it feels the same thing with Deal Champs. And I'm excited the direction we're going. So
hell yeah.
And quick tip, if you are in a 3-way partnership, the best thing that we've ever done is if there's majority, it's over. Done. It's done.
Yep.
Done deal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Efficiency. I like it, dude. 2 out of 3. Yes.
So much
Yes is
easier.
the automatic check.
2 out of 3 is a yes.
Yes.
2 out of 3. Yes.
Might
And
be
we
a
move
no.
on. Someone absolutely
Majority
wants to dig their heels in. They can.
Don't matter.
But then it's like, hey, what about this? And it's like, all right, we
Yeah.
move on. Been the easiest thing I've ever had to do. All right. What was our first one? Let me get going on this. Where did it go? What was your best investment of the year? Do you know?
Are we talking like straight profit or
I would
deal
say just
or...
best overall investment of the year.
Well, there's a couple different things that I'll talk about. If we just talk about straight deal, right to the headline news, what's the best deal we did? So the best deal we did this last year is actually our best deal we've ever done. We set a new record for ourselves. Prior to that, our best net profit on one single deal. And remember, guys, in context, this is always helpful. Most of the deals we're doing, the price that we're selling these houses for is somewhere in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. Okay. And that number slowly but surely has gone up over the years as there's been appreciation and growth in the market. So that number's, increased a little bit, but in the past, our best deal had been $140,000. And that in its own right is a really great, fantastic deal. Set a new record this year, and we broke $165,000 on one deal. We did a webinar on it. We shared it and showcased it with other people, right? We played back what, where the lead came from, listening to the call, showing how that aligned with our script and our sales process. And it just is proof that if you follow the process of how to find deals and how to negotiate deals, you're gonna create your own luck, right? Was that deal, did it feel much different than any of the other deals we've done? No, it felt just pretty much like every other deal. It just so happened to where the luck came through from consistency, and this, once in a lifetime type of deal fell in our lap. We put it together and did it quickly. Seller was overwhelmed with joy and super, excited about the outcome. And we happened to get it at a great price. We also sold it for more than we thought we would. We originally had an ARV of 315. We ended up selling it for 349. Right. That's also another big jump on it too. So, so that was a great deal. It was also fun to share it with people. And then we made another big hire this year, and we continue to grow our team and really reemphasize on better leadership. We've invested in some coaching ourselves, right, to help us run our business better. And I think that those things are really going to pay off going forward. So those are some of our biggest wins this year.
I love
Dean,
it.
I'm getting some questions in my IG chat about your deal. So Martinez REI says, what was the turnaround time once you closed on that deal? So was it a wholesale or a flip or a wholesale? To give a little feedback on what the actual details of the deal were.
Yeah. So this was a deal we decided to end up flipping. And usually when a deal that we can tell is so good from the get-go, those are the deals that we like to cherry pick and to flip ourselves, right? I've flipped hundreds of houses, and where my business model is now is focusing on wholesaling the majority of our deals, and the deals that are easy, simple, and we can get through in and out quickly. Those ones we'll choose to flip and maximize the profit. And so this one, we said, hey, it's too good. Let's buy it and let's do it ourselves. The remodel was very straightforward and simple. We spent about 45 grand doing it, and start to finish from the day we purchased it to sold it, I think it was right in that 4 to 5 month range, right within there. And so, that's a thing that you have to make as a business decision too, is managing cash flow. Do I flip this house and potentially make more money down the road? Or do I wholesale this house, make the money now, leave the profit for someone else to flip? That way I can have life breathe back into my business to reinvest it into more marketing and do more deals. So we were in the position to where it made sense for us to flip it, and we did that.
Nice.
And real quick, most businesses die because of two things. The number one thing is actually partnerships, is what kills the majority of businesses, why don't last long. Number two is just straight cash flow. We could make $1 million a year, but if we make $1 million in a month and then we have accounts payable and all this other stuff, it doesn't even matter. So I'd say like the cash flow aspect of that is huge. And especially with real estate, we've had multiple deals get pushed out a month for one reason or another. That is like uncontrollable. And you got to be able to handle that.
Happens
just as a quick note, like it happens all the time, and you have no control. Some bullshit happens, and it just gets pushed.
This is just an aside. Let me add on what you're talking about, the cash flow management. We're making a concerted effort this year to actually. I've had a shift recently where I think for a long time I was tied to like the number of units that I had, right? And I was like, oh, I want to have X amount of units and this, that, and the other thing, right? And I've just come to the conclusion recently that my future is not going to be Jason owning hundreds of single family houses and like small multifamily. And I value liquidity much more than anything else right now. And we are in a position where we're actively not fire sailing anything by any stretch of the imagination, but making the moves that we need to make to position properties that we know are not going to be in our long-term future, vacate those, get the money that we need, extract maximum value, and like get more chips back off of the table to hang on, because you need liquidity, dude. You need liquidity, bro. Like you need to have, like, it doesn't matter how many assets you have. If you don't have a long enough financial runway, if one or two major things goes wrong, and most people who have never dealt with that don't understand like how scary and how many sleepless nights you have when you end up in a cash crunch like that. Having $1 million, $1.5 million in cash in the bank, dude, you sleep a lot better, bro. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, we're definitely making a move.
Especially when you start getting into some of the bigger deals, like the deals you just
that's
took down, Jason. Like you got to have a rainy day fund for just those deals specifically. Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's it.
For sure. Yeah. We had a deal, super easy deal. This is crazy, guys. And it hurts my head to say it, but I've been in it long enough to where I don't lose sleep over it, but it's still frustrating regardless. We had a deal ready to close right before New Year's Day. I think it was New Year's Eve, whatever Monday was last week, ready to close. Okay. This is the 30th, Monday, the 30th, just 8 days ago, ready to close this deal, wholesaling it, making $50,000. We were going to be closing escrow within like 4 business days from the day we got the contract. On that day, on Monday, when the seller was supposed to sign, buyer was going to send their funds, the seller passed away. That day. And there was a chance, if we had been a little bit tighter at escrow, I won't point fingers, but if we had a little bit tighter run ship at escrow, we could have gotten everything signed and done on Friday. We could have had it done on Friday or over the weekend, but because things happened and things got busy, the seller passed away on Monday, and now we have to go through probate. We have to wait 3 or 4 months.
No, fuck.
Yes. So frustrating.
I will say that was
$50,000 that's now on the shelf and has to wait for 3 or 4 months to come back.
That's 100% pointing fingers, but I think it's a good point.
Yeah, I don't want to point fingers, but here.
I don't want to point fingers. Well, this fucking guy right here.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Our best deal this year was an Ovation in New York that we ended up clearing like 60 or 70 on. So that was pretty cool. Big learning experience on that one. And then But my best investment this year by far was like my brand, because I've been able to negotiate some really, really crazy deals with our lead providers
That's been
that
cool.
have been really cool. We have absolutely zero capex in the company as far as marketing goes, and we got 200 leads in like 2 days over the holidays, and it blew up everything. But what a blessing! They're like, hey, like we got all this stuff for you. Here you go. To where that would have not been possible if I didn't invest in my brand.
And also all the relationship capital that you've been building over the years, dude, for like as young as you are, bro. Like, and I've noticed this about you since even when we first met, you've always been intentional about making like genuine connections with people, right? And you're not going to get some of the partners that you have coming on for Dispo and lead gen and all that stuff be like, yeah, here you go, here's our platform for free, and then we'll trust you that you're going to do all this stuff on the back end without having a genuine, authentic relationship and a connection with them. And I think people hear about, like, we talk about it all the time, come to the events. It's all relationships. It's the people that you meet. And that's a direct, like, example, a real life example of like how that pays ROI in real life. You nurture these relationships for months or years in these cases for sometimes, right? And then you have an opportunity where there's synergy, right?
Yep.
And then it works. It's not forced. It's completely organic. And it's dope, bro. That's really cool, man.
Stratton invested early on too in masterminds, like early on in his business journey. That's something I waited way too long to do, and that's something you did early on. I think that's really paid off with that relationship capital you're talking about.
I have good relationship capital, but my one caveat to that would be I joined so many masterminds. I had so many different businesses at the time to where I was so like split, right? We were in like an e-commerce mastermind trying to go one company. We're in another real estate mastermind trying to go another one. I'm not that talented, like just flat out. And we didn't have talented enough operators to go and handle it to where it's paid off with the people I know on like the actual business side because of the e-com stuff we were trying out. But I'd say if I could do anything, I would have just stayed dialed. Focused. And I would have probably joined CG instead of another mastermind that I was in when that point came.
It's all a learning lesson, bro. When we don't win, we learn, bro. You know what I mean? And when we win, we make money and we learn at the same time. It's all about experience.
All right. Next question, boys. What was your worst investment of the year?
I actually did the math on this and I posted on it recently. So the single worst investment that I did this year was actually a long-term hold. It was an Airbnb that we owned, and we lost just under $21,000 on it. And I was open in the video about why we had hit with this occupancy tax that was unexpected. It was not an optimal neighborhood, and just ultimately just wasn't the right fit for Airbnb. What was that?
The occupancy tax is what got you?
The occupancy tax was half of that loss, maybe a little bit more, but then also just did not really perform as an Airbnb. We've got two other ones that the occupancy was lower, and it was lots of different reasons why. And it was the last Airbnb that we put into our portfolio. I kind of forced it. It should not have been an Airbnb, and I waited too long to refinance it, so I can't get it to pencil as a long-term rental. So we're literally just sticking it on the market. I've got $100-something grand in equity in it. So I'm able to recoup, thankfully, all of that because we had a plan B. But that was the single worst deal from an investment standpoint. But in our core business, we did 5 deals that were losers for us this year. And I think when you added up all 5, it was just over 46 grand total that we took losses on. And there was like 1 or 2 that were like flips that we lost $15,000 or $17,000 on. And then some small ones that were like wholesales. But we sold, like successfully exited in our company 79 deals last year. So we actually sold through and like exited from, not new acquisitions, but exits, for those of you guys that are like following and trying to differentiate like new contracts and like deals that we sold 79, and we lost on 5. And, you know, I don't know what national average is for people doing that type of volume, but yeah, I mean, it's like a little bit less than 10%. And you guys just have to know and understand when you're moving at the pace that we're moving at. And there's so many moving parts and pieces. And we've got a pretty dialed in team. Our systems are the best. Our project management is the best that it's ever been. We track and manage how long properties are taken to rehab, how long they're on the market, when we're doing, like, we've got that more dialed in than ever. And we still miss on stuff, bro. There is shit that is just going to happen when you're doing this many deals that are just outside of your control. And you just have to know and understand that that's part of what you're signing up for when you get into this business, especially when you start doing volume. At some point, you're going to deal with some losers, and that's just the way that it is.
What about you, Dino?
So I've definitely been taking a lot of pride in not losing on deals and only cherry picking the best deals. This year was the first deal that we have lost on in a handful of years. Now, again, for those that know my story, the first 5 years of my real estate investing journey felt like, one of those charts up and down, because there were just a few, not many, literally just 2 distinct deals that I did that I rushed into that ended up causing me to lose hundreds of thousands of dollars. Not like, 5,000, 10,000, 15, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Was very painful. So I have been there and never want to experience that again. Huge learning lessons. And so I've taken a lot of pride the past few years of not rushing into deals and not doing deals that were unnecessary. There was one deal, the first deal that we have lost on in years was this past year, and it came from somebody else. Okay. This was a partnership deal. And I could tell from the very get-go, looking at the deal, I didn't really want to do it. There was this tiny little tickle in my tummy, okay? And they call that a gut feeling. And I recognize I have a history, the several not pointing fingers at myself, but I have a history of sometime ignoring the gut feeling because I want it to happen. Right. And this was another one of those situations where in my gut, it didn't really feel like a good deal. And it didn't really make sense why we were trying to do it. But I wanted to do a deal with these other people. Right. I wanted to get some momentum going and, build that relationship capital and springboard it into more deals. Well, what turns out was it was a wholesale deal. We bought the deal. And we put it on the market and it was sitting there. Okay. Then we decided, we found out, it actually needs an AC. We put a new AC on there. There's another expense that was like 10 grand. Then it was sit on the market a little bit longer. Then we realized, it's probably better if we have like the local expert to manage and oversee listing this property. He took over the listing. We reduced the price. All in all, because of those expenses and the reductions in price, we, instead of making what we thought $40,000, we ended up losing $29,000. Okay.
That's a big fucking swing, bro.
It's a big swing. It literally swung that much. It was like a $40,000 reduction in the listing price of what we thought we could sell it for. It was the holding costs and it was those expenses. And at the end of the day, we ended up losing $29,000. And I could look at it definitely as a learning lesson. I also know that because it was a partnership, we only really realized half of that loss. So 14,000 and some change. So we were kind of insulated from that standpoint. But the real big learning lesson was just to reinforce, like, guys, the saying that I go by because of my early lessons is it's better to do no deal than a bad deal, right? If you're not confident on that deal, you shouldn't just blindly run into it and say it'll work out, right? I truly believe that it's better to do no deal than a bad deal, but you also don't want to have analysis paralysis and never do a deal. So it was a good lesson, was a loss that we had, and it reinforced, let's stay what we're good at, let's not get loose, and let's keep moving forward.
Here's a hack for all of you guys that are new that haven't really figured in how to tap in and really tune into this. That little spidey sense that Dean was talking about, you know what I'm saying? Every single time, almost, I can't think of an event or a circumstance or a deal where my gut told me no, and then we forced it and it worked out in my favor. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's always something bad happens. And the bad isn't always like we took a big loss, but it could be just a headache of a project that just sucks up a shitload of bandwidth and that just takes all your attention and eye off the ball, which can cost you a lot of money too. You may not see that on the P&L, but like when you're constantly stressed and you're dealing with all these problems and you've got all these different issues that you're just not operating at your highest and best level, guys. So the hack would be, you have to really learn how to develop that intuition and that instinct, right? And you have to sense it. And when you know that it's steering you in a direction, you got to learn how to trust in it, even when outside influences or the market or a sense of like, man, maybe I really want to do this deal because of X, Y, and Z. You got to learn how to stand your ground there, dude, because that's a big thing. There's a science, like an analysis to doing deals, right? That's the spreadsheet. That's the deal analysis. That's making sure that the numbers make sense. And then there's also an to it. I always, and the intention and the instinct that you build just from experience and a lot of time. And those two things have to work together to really become successful.
100%. Yeah. And I think with time, you definitely develop a better sense of your spidey sense and your gut feeling. I guess I needed to be reminded of, hey, you need to listen to that and don't take it for granted. Now, to give Strat some credit on this deal, as we faced this loss, and it was in light of working with a partnership, I thought to myself, what's the best way to break this news and kind of like, have this conversation with these other partners? Strat had a great idea of, hey, you know what? Instead of just taking a flat loss and everybody throw their chips in to cover up the mess, why don't you find another way to have a win and make some good content about it? So the plan was, hey, we lost some money. Instead of just, writing a check and evening out the P&L, why don't you do another deal together and have a win together, make some money together, and then make content about the whole thing? So that's the plan. That's the strategy, and hoping that comes through in the near future.
That works.
I love it. What was my biggest loss? I had two big ones. We probably lost close to 15 grand on fucking photos and property walkthroughs doing the nationwide stuff.
Wow. Okay.
Because we couldn't move anything. Like month one, we legitimately had 30 contracts. And each one, and we were doing novations, cost us like $500.
$100, yeah.
Like $500 a minimum to like get it up and running. We want to get it on the market. And it took me a while to like realize, like, Stratton, we're never going to move these fucking things.
Yeah.
Like, we got to completely pivot. So we lost quite a bit doing that in tertiary markets, semi-tertiary markets, or even locking up something way too high and then not even knowing that you locked it up too high. But still, that's $500 burnt. Is not coming back. On to the next one. Okay, now we got another one. Now we got another one. Now we got another one. To where cutting my teeth in California, bro. If you're doing 4 deals a month in California at a 30K spread, you don't need to do 30 transactions a month, and you're probably not going to be able to.
Right?
No.
Across the country,
like
right? When you got.
Yeah, I definitely like. I mean, we're doing higher volume than we've ever done, but we had almost an even distribution of flips to wholesales to wholetails, and it's the best that I've ever felt. I think we did actually have it up right here, 25 assignments this year, which is the most that we've ever done. And the growth that we're going to get to next year is, I just want to double the amount of assignment deals. I would like to keep the volume of flips the same. I'd like to keep the volume of wholetails exactly the same. And I'd like to go from 25 to 50 assignments. So to me, that works out to 2 more closed assignments per month, which means 3, maybe 3.5 new contracts that we're going to plan to wholesale right out of the gate every month to account for fallout. And that's it. And that's how we double our assignment volume.
And that's all, to where I went from 0 to 30. I was like, hey, we got this, bro. Like, I'll be fine. Yeah. We hired on like a transaction coordination company and a couple of admins, and it didn't go that well. So that was probably my biggest loss of the year, was the lost time, because there's like several lost months of wheels spinning and an actual just cash outlay with no return.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. What was our next one?
Shout out to Shanae here. Happy New Year's. Happy New Year, Shanae.
All right. What was your biggest personal loss of the year?
Oh, God.
That's a tough one.
I'll go into this without getting into a ton of detail because we're winding it down. But I personally was involved in a very frivolous lawsuit personally that happened, where I ended up having to spend, and I think I've talked to maybe you, Stratton, about this, over $100,000 in legal fees this last year, defending a completely fucking bogus, like made up, literally a fucking made up, like completely made up story. I just got roped into this. I'm not going to get into like all the details of it, And from a financial standpoint, I mean, thankfully, again, talking about fucking liquidity, dude. Like, I mean, we were in a position, thank God, where we could write that check, and I don't feel it at all. It still sucks having to. It's more painful, like thinking. It's disgusting, honestly. Like thinking that this is what the reality of what can actually happen. You hear about like how litigious it is in California. It's a completely different situation when you're like staring in the face of that, and you're just stroking a fucking check every single month, and then you see a bill for like $130,000. That's what we're at right now, and we're at the tail end of it. But it's just so sickening, bro, to like think about how in California somebody can just make something up and just be like, "Yep," and then I've got to defend myself and like do something that I know is completely fraudulent, bro. You know what I mean? It's just a crazy, crazy thing. And so I always talk to people about like you see. Like as you become more successful and the more cool shit you see people doing, you have to know that behind the scenes, the problems that they're solving are just as complex and they're just as difficult, and they just become more difficult the higher that you ascend, dude. And so it doesn't change like all the cool stuff that you do. It doesn't change the fact that you have like these real world issues, dude, that come up, man. And like you have to stare in the face of that, show up to your team and be like, no, we got, and like not even, you know what I mean? Like nobody knew that anything was going on. Nothing, bro. You know what I'm saying? Nothing. Like nobody knew nothing. Like that's like, it was just this crazy, crazy whole crazy scenario, bro. And now, so then what happens, right? You get this big shit sandwich that's just delivered to you on a platter. And it's like, here you go. Have fun eating this for 14, 18 months straight. Okay. And you got to deal with it, eat it. And then you come out the other end and then you're fine, right? You do all of these things. And now you are like weathered and prepared in a way where you just become, it's like the stoic approach to things, dude. Like little things can't phase you anymore. You know what I'm saying? If it's like a little thing comes and you have to take a hit financially on something, it's like, well, I already been there, done that, dude. I dealt with this. So this is nothing. You know what I mean? And so it's like, I'm always weary of people that have never faced like these significant challenges, because it's not a matter of if, it's just a when proposition, dude. Especially as you become more successful, it's a when is some crazy monkey wrench going to get thrown into your program and agenda. And I always give me the person that has had to deal with that. I will always put my money on that person that's made it through that, made it through hell, come out the other end, because that person is equipped to deal with those type of challenges in a way that somebody that hasn't just isn't, bro. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that was a big one for us this year.
I always say two things. Like number one, the universe is going to give you problems that are going to get you to where you want to be so you can handle the even bigger problems. Like you can't want to be a billionaire and like cry about $100 problems. And then I don't think most people know that the wherewithal they need to have in order to become an entrepreneur, especially an entrepreneur of like any type of scale or size. Like you got to take so much shit. Someone is always stealing from you. And like once you hit a certain scale, someone's always stealing from you one way or another. You're always going to have monkey wrenches coming up. The home life doesn't change, and everybody still wants you to show up the exact same way. So you got to be able to handle yourself a certain way. Home life, you still have to show up the same. Work, you still have to show up the same. And nobody gives a fuck if it's not going right. You got to perform in every single way, especially like as we get like as a man, you still got to perform. You got to stand up for the household. You got to be there for the household and all that other stuff.
Yep, that's it, man.
You know, what was your biggest personal loss?
So I was thinking through this. I wouldn't call it a personal loss. I'd say personal challenge. I'd say one of the things that's been most challenging as there's been business growth, as there's just been more opportunity to do things, it's been a struggle to stay focused. And as there's new shiny objects, it's been tough. As I keep having more kids, right? And another one's about to be born literally any day now, number 5. Trying to juggle all those things at once can be really tough. And so this last year, I'd say from a health and fitness standpoint, it's been the most challenging. I also had that whole health fight that I had when I came back from Europe. I caught E. coli, and that just wrecked my whole gut health and everything, and had to overcome, fighting through that. So that's been my biggest personal challenge this past year, is being able to be in my normal rhythm and routine, because I naturally love being in shape, being super active, being, still able to perform in sports and stuff like that. So that's been something for me that's kind of weighed on me and been a big challenge this past year. Got another shout out to Thomas here. Happy New Year, man. And he was saying Strat is 100% correct.
Let's go. I'd say my biggest personal loss was by far the ERC stuff, because I committed so much time to it on top of money. And then it took me a really long time and a hard conversation with one of my friends. It's like, bro, you got to fucking cut it off and move on, or else you're going to go bankrupt. Because like we were sitting there, there's all this money waiting there. Like, bro, I have fucking 2 years into this thing. Yeah. I think we could still pull it out. Like, what are we going to do here? And then nothing's working. And then I'm sitting down with my friends like, Strat, bro, we know how to make money other ways. Let's move on. So essentially I burnt all of that, like a year and a half, 2 years worth of time building out something that we thought was going to pay out in 3 to 6 months. That took, at this point, we're on year 3, and I'm going to get like $6,000 from that. So that was by far my biggest loss of all time, was that stuff. But then again,
that's more of that's like a mental, like it just hits you mentally, bro. Like it's such a blow to your confidence. I mean, the money is one thing, but like coming back from like, damn, dude, did I just mess up for 3 years in a row? You know what I'm saying? And then like the question and the spiral that you could potentially go down there is so much worse than money, dude. And it's hard to, it's sometimes you need somebody from the outside to just be like, stop, dude. You know what I'm saying? It's time to stop now, because we're so relentless in our drive. And I feel like we've always called our own shot, and we're usually very successful when we set our mind to something and then we do it. That sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and we don't know when to just pull the plug when this is, we know that there's no more point in going forward, dude. And that's, yeah, bro. It is, man. That's a difficult one to deal with, bro.
But Tony Robbins talks about is like the biggest difference between the people who actually make it through is they just recover from their losses faster.
Yeah.
And they don't essentially like mentally murder yourself every day, because that's what'll happen. I was beating the shit out of myself every day just for like, hey, I can't believe you did this. I can't believe this decision. You should have known better, this and that, blah, blah, like all these things, to where even you don't notice you're even talking to yourself that way throughout the day. To where you got to reprogram again, work on that mindset work, move on, get back in the driver's seat. But by far, my biggest loss in my business career.
My chat and IG is blowing up. So Sunrun Donnie says stoicism is where it's at for men and women in business, more important now than ever. And I couldn't agree with that more. And that applies directly towards what you're talking about. I've taken that approach. I'm actually rereading this right now just to get a reminder on
my dad talks
like
about that book all the time.
How important it is, dude. And here's just another tip for people when you're going through and rereading, go through with a different color highlighter the next time you go around, right? And
that's a good tip.
That's a really good
That is a really good tip.
Like do it. So orange was the first time I went through it, and then up here in blue, it's like, oh, this impacted me in a way, and I must have missed it the first time. But stoicism has been so good for me, because when I've learned to emotionally detach from these outcomes that happen, massive wins or these really low lows, my life has been way better on the outcome, because I'm not riding that emotional roller coaster. And when I'm riding a really big high because we close a big deal, like we go out and we celebrate and whatever. And then when we get too low, then we beat ourselves up, and all of that ripples out into everything that we're doing in our family life, in our business, and everything else. And even keel is always much better, like middle of the road. It's okay to be grateful for your wins, but not get crazy. And it's okay to learn and understand from your losses, but not spiral and like get depressed about it either.
Oh yeah.
So the question from Thomas was, Jason, what book is that? That's Marcus Aurelius Meditations,
Marcus
right?
Aurelius Meditations. Yeah, it's a really good book. Simple read, quick and easy.
Ryan Holiday has a bunch of great stoicism books too.
Yeah, if you want like a spin from like current, somebody like filtering the knowledge currently, Ryan Holiday is really good. But if you want to go like directly to the source, like stuff like this book is really good too. So yeah, it's good.
My dad got on the stoicism game, I don't know, probably 5+ years ago, and has been talking about it nonstop. Without like studying it or knowing it, I feel like my sports background put me in a position to practice stoicism, because I mentally, to be prepared for those, pressure cooker and tense situations, and just the ongoing relentless, training to even be, in that position, and be consistent. I feel like I was practicing stoicism to where I just, regardless if it was an intense situation or a calm situation, I just had to find peace in the moment and focus, because I think that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed, right? Life as being a human on this earth is pretty stressful, especially as an adult. Like, it's a pretty big shock to come out of the bubble that we live in as youth into a young adult, and then the real world of having to figure out how to make money and pay bills, and the surprises of life and the nastiness that comes with life too. Like the thing you just mentioned you're going through, Jason, like, what the F, most people that would absolutely crush and put them in under the ground, like won't be able to handle it, overwhelmed with stress, and can't function. So I think being able to find that peace and, to practice something like stoicism and gain knowledge from something like meditations, I think that's critical for entrepreneurs or anybody in life trying to go off the beaten path and try to find success.
This is the last thing I'll say about this, but I think it's important. I was very angry when I was a young man for just lots of different reasons, right? And I carried a lot of that anger into my adulthood. And there was lots of times where I've been outside of control of my emotions. And I've had to reframe the way that I look and respond at things, bro. And now I just look at it as a sign of weakness when a man is completely outside of his control and he's yelling and screaming or out in public, like making a scene. And before, you think like, oh, we're big, bad, loud, boisterous, like alpha type stuff. You know what I mean? And I didn't completely resonate with that either, but you get what I'm talking about. And now it's like, bro, if somebody can do something or say something to me to cause me to get so angry or so down, like I'm outside of control of my emotions, and that's not the type of man that I want to be anymore, dude. And you know what I mean? And so it's taken lots of like intentional reprogramming of how we think. And it starts with, you've got to really stop and like think before you say something and act, bro. You know what I mean? Especially when you feel that feeling like rising up really quick and something triggers you, right? You got to stop yourself and be like, whoa, wait a second. You know what I mean? And don't like fall right back. And that's the pattern interrupt that like Tony Robbins talks about when you're changing these neural pathways. You got to stop it there and insert something else and just process it differently, dude. And that takes time, bro, when you're dealing with stuff that you've carried since you're a little kid. You know what I mean?
Number one, shout out Marcus Aurelius. If you guys haven't learned about him, he wrote this while he was like essentially the ruler of the free world.
And like his private journal. It wasn't even like a book.
He owned the world.
Like he essentially owned the world at this point in time. And then like he came out to be such a good human. Like it's Marcus Aurelius, I think is awesome.
Pretty incredible.
Another thing, Rockefeller never raised his voice. Like, think about that. Like, again, one of the richest men in the world, and in his journals, I have it's like 23 letters to his son, and he specifically writes, "I never raised my voice, bro." He was always home at like 6 o'clock. Like, he was an insane family man, businessman, like cared. And if you guys haven't listened to Founders, listen to Founders so you can like learn about all these previous business owners. But it shows you that like the alpha male social media thing is, I don't think it's a thing.
No, bro. No, it's bullshit.
It's not a thing.
And it's like, think about the amount and the level of self-control that you have to have when you're dealing with the highest stakes, bro, the highest pressure things, and you can't get thrown off your game, and nobody can do or say anything where you just don't crack under pressure. Like, ultimately, that's what I'm aspiring to be, right? Like, I can be my highest and best self regardless of whatever is going on, right, bro? And that's a lifetime's worth of work, dude, that we have to get to, man. But I think that's what is admirable and inspirational for me, not the other thing anymore.
All right, next question. Did you guys have any other points as we move on? Sweet. What was the coolest moment this year?
Ooh.
I'll start it out. The coolest moment this year was going to Europe for 30 days. I will definitely say that I'm the type of person that finds comfort in the consistent routine and just putting in the work and grinding day after day. My wife definitely stretches my comfort zone because she's an adventure person, and I love adventure. I love new experiences, but naturally, like, I'm also super passionate about my entrepreneur career. And so finding that balance, she definitely is the one that plans and says, hey, this is what we're doing. This year, we're going to go to Kauai for 30 days and be in Hawaii for a whole month. We're going to go to Costa Rica, and we might even cap it off by going to Canada. So we plan on being gone pretty much the whole summer, and almost for 3 months this upcoming year. But this last year we did 30 days in Europe with 4 kids, and it was an adventure. It was definitely tough. There was high highs and low lows, as we like to summarize it. To go through Europe and climbing lots of stairs and hard to get around places, not easy for kids, but it was still an incredible experience. And whenever you can open up your mind and experience new things, it just gives you whole new perspectives on life. And one thing it did show me is I can do this business anywhere in the world, anywhere. And to me, that was such a freeing feeling. Now, did I still feel like, oh man, I'm not being as productive as I could normally be? Yeah. And that's the thing that I need to work on with the business. How can I make sure it's at the highest? Now, that being said, we still had our highest, best month that we have ever had while I was gone, those 30 days. So that in itself was also, something we were really proud of. So that was an incredible experience, with the high highs and the low lows, and, grateful for going through it for sure.
I love it. For me, we had our first like family Christmas, not at an in-laws house. To where that was like huge for like our first one, like at our house.
Yeah,
we had like spent every day here up until Christmas. Usually I'm gone all December out in Salt Lake or something. And this year we stayed in Fresno. We got all of our own like personal Christmas traditions. We got to be by the fire. I did like all those things. It was, to me, it was an amazing moment. Like, wow, like, we really have like our own family and all this other stuff, where that was the dopest moment. And then after that, I got to go be a professional Catan player.
Then you took off to go settle. Settle for a couple weeks.
To go settle at the in-laws' house, and I played Catan 3 times a day for about 2 weeks.
That's great.
By far, the coolest moment to me was like the Christmas stuff.
Mine was Jen got to take her dad and her sister to London and Paris for like 10 days or something like that, or maybe a little bit less. But it checked a lot of boxes and fulfilled me in a way for lots of different reasons. One, because my father-in-law has been such a great male role model for me. He does like a lot of exactly the opposite of how I was talking about being angry and stuff. And I modeled a lot of patience for him. He's one of the most patient men that I've ever met in my life. And I just see how he pours into his family. And he's just this incredibly hard worker. The guy was a mechanic for the city of Fresno, like fixing buses, breaking his back his whole fucking life, working his ass off in like a blue collar job, never goes anywhere, like always like retired 10 years ago and still just does stuff for the family now. And like to see him flying like business class to London, you know what I'm saying? And Jen sent me a picture of him like laid out in the bed chair with him, like bringing in like all his food, and then like seeing him at the Mona Lisa and in London and all that stuff, dude. Like it was just such a cool, fulfilling experience for me to be able to provide that for my family, dude. And I think a lot of us resonate with being providers and wanting. It's not really about us, dude. It's about like, what can we do for the people that we love and care about the most, dude? And, for him and Jen and her sister to be able to have that time together, just the 3 of them, you know what I mean, was a really cool thing for me. So that was dope, bro. That was one of the things that stood out for me.
That's super cool.
I love it. That was really cool. Jason, what was your best life hack of the year?
A cold plunge. Best money I spent all year. I'm up to like 186 plunges since I bought it in April. So I bought that thing back in April, and I was just going in my pool when it was cold enough, and I liked it so much that I was like, dude, it's starting to get hot now. I'm just going to spend the money and do it. And I spent whatever it was, $5,000. I put it there, and I love it, dude. It's there. You can't hide from it when it's at your house, bro. It's like when you have it and you go into your garage every day and that thing is staring at you every single day, there's no hiding from it, right? I spent $6,000 to do this thing. It's like, I'm going to use it. And I love it, dude. I was in it a couple hours ago. I'm in it almost every single day. I get an incredible charge coming out of it. I just feel better. It keeps me more alert. It's the best hack that I've done. And I've been doing cold exposure for a while, but this thing was money well spent for sure. Cold plunge for the win.
Because you were doing even the Cairo
Yeah.
freeze.
I will pay for convenience. That's the other thing that I learned, dude. Like I was doing a subscription to a cryo place, but then I got to drive there. I got to wait there. That's an hour of my life that's gone,
lot.
dude. And when I'm $200 or whatever a month to go do that, in my head, I'm like, I'm going to end up spending what I would spend on a plunge, and I'm going to put the plunge here, and I know that I'm going to use it, dude. You know what I'm saying? And so
that convenience,
I think for sure. Yeah, I will always pay for convenience, dude. Like the money that we make, one of the things that I have no problem paying for and using it is for buying back my time and the luxury of having convenience and not having to go do stuff like that, dude. So yeah, for sure.
My biggest life hack was putting something in your week that you actually look forward to, and it can't just be work. For me, it feels really rejuvenating. So like that. With the Deal Champ stuff, I like just our car rides. I don't necessarily care about the meetups. I like chilling with the boys on the car rides. The meetups are fun.
Those are the best.
But I think the car rides are the funnest, right? So okay, sweet. I get to look forward to chilling out with Dean and Jason this week. We'll go do that. Awesome. Or I started coaching my son's rugby team. That's been really fun. It's like a small thing I can look forward to in the week instead of like dusk till dawn and it's monotonous. I'd like to introduce a little bit of like surprise or something I can look forward to. Tough Mudder with friends. We go travel here. Like just a small thing, not a huge thing that you can look forward to every 2 weeks, once a week, at least once a month, to where it's like a rejuvenator. You feel like you're okay. I'm re-energized again. I feel like I'm not doing the same thing over and over again, and I'm good to go.
1A for me is this little hack, and I've given myself more permission to do this, is be more spontaneous during the day. And I think because I came from a corporate background, I've always like from this time in the morning to it's all got to be work, dude. You know what I'm saying? And I've been better this year about like if I want to just go get a workout in at 1:30 I'm just going to go do that, dude. And I'm not going to feel like bad about doing that or whatever. And I think you do this stuff to create these freedoms in your life so you can break out of these societal norms of like, I've got to be at this place from this time to this time. And it's a liberating feeling to have true control and give yourself the permission to just do something that's kind of outside of the box, middle of the day, and not have it impact yourself at all. It really does feel good. And I had a hard time wrapping my brain around that, but I definitely embraced that this year. And it was helpful for me.
Awesome. What about you, Dino?
So I'll end it with my life hack. Something that I'm challenging myself, and I started towards the end of the year. And I mean, there's lots of different hacks you can have in your business and your personal life, but something that I have not really wanted to do, and I felt like it would sometimes, like you were just talking about, Jason, it would kind of like trap me into not having the freedom to work on what I felt was the best use of my time or being available for opportunities. Something I'm being more intentional about right now is putting things on my calendar. Okay. And again, when I do that, sometimes I feel guilty of not being able to answer my phone, right? Because that's opportunity that's knocking. That's me supporting my team and helping us move the needle forward. But I find, at least recently, as I refocus priorities in the business and personal life, the more that I can get better about having my set of goals, my short list of goals, and taking those goals and each day looking at how can I place things on my calendar that fulfill those goals and only those goals. How much better are those goals going to come to life? How am I going to overperform on those goals? So that's the newfound 2025 refocus on short list of goals and going extremely hard on just those. And part of that's been reinforcing this is I'm listening to Buy Back My Time from Dan Martell.
Oh, Dan Martell. Yeah, he's great.
And yeah. I want to say he took a lesson from someone else. And I think it was Warren Buffett that had a thing where he would make a list of 10 goals within the year. He would take 7 and throw them right out right away. Right now, it takes a lot of thought to put your 10 goals down in the first place, but he would then eliminate 7 and only have 3 and then pick the top one from there. And that was the focus for the entire next year.
Damn.
So when I heard that, I was like, okay, how can I be that much more intentional and focused? And for me, I feel like that's going to be a huge hack to cut out the distractions, don't take on new shiny objects, and just absolutely crush the goals that are in front of me.
Real quick, Sam Prim says Stratton thinks WWE is real. Jason licks windows, and Dean eats his burgers.
Shout out to Sam.
Oh,
Shout out Sam Prim. Shout out Sam Prim. I think the calendar thing's a big hack. I've been trying to use it more, but I don't like having a lot on my calendar. It stresses me out because, like, I feel like if I'm about to start something in 20 minutes, I can't go over, and so I'm very cognizant of like how I time block it out because I don't want to like stuff to bleed in. I have to stop early so I'm not late, and so I've tried to keep it one half is free, the other half is like dialed, so I don't have to think about that shit.
Shout out to our boy Tim Harridge. He posted something on Facebook a few weeks ago saying something along the lines of, if you don't use calendar invites in 2025, like, I can't take you as a serious business person. And that's how I am too, dude. Like, if you want to go do something and you immediately don't follow up with, let me get a calendar invite out to you, I know that you have enough leeway in your schedule where you can kind of like oscillate and things can happen. And I just don't have that anymore, dude. Like, I live and breathe by my calendar. That's the only way that I get the amount of workload done that I need to do. And yeah, I was just cracking up when I saw Tim do that. It's like, if I want to take you serious, you got to be living off calendar invites.
All right, we got 3 more. We'll power through these. Who was your frame breaking person of the year? Do you know?
Maybe you go first and give me an example.
The other day, and you guys know I'm big on podcasts and books. I was listening to this podcast because I know what I want to do in the next like 5-10 years. And there was a 27-year-old kid who bought a company in March that was doing $10 million a year, and he ended at $200 million a year in rev. And so that to me was very, very frame breaking for what's possible, what you can do, how you should structure it. But again, it was like, Jesus Christ, Stratton, like, why are you doing these little games? Like, we really need to be we need to be doing bigger things. And that was a really, really frame breaking thing for me. I talk to you about the stuff all the time, Dean, about stuff that just makes me feel really insecure about what's going on and how I need to step it up and do bigger things. But so I don't even know what the kid's name was. Shout out to him, but really sharp guy, absolute killer. But that was for sure my frame breaking person of the year.
I'll throw Hormozy out for me. I think I can't think of somebody like first person connection that really like gave me some kind of mind blowing thing, but Hormozy's definitely probably my favorite follow on social media. He isn't a real estate guy, but he does such a great job of communicating like really high level, difficult, complex things in a very simple way. And you can just tell that he has it together and dialed in a way where it makes me feel like what you're talking about. Like, damn, dude, like it makes me feel like just hearing him break stuff down. I'm like, I'm such a fucking loser. I think I'm doing well. And then I listened to one of this guy's podcasts. I'm like, fuck shit. I was like, I have to go back and like revamp everything, bro. Cause it's just so impressive. That's the word. It's just very, very impressive to see how dialed in that is. And it shows you that the levels, like you talk about this big game and you want to get all the way up here, dude, like there's a long way to go before you start approaching that level of success, man. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'd say, I'll double down on Dan Martell because I'll say this, and this might be something I need to work on personally, or maybe I'm okay. I've had this conversation with King Kong, as we've had as a guest on the podcast. I don't like to read, and I love the idea. Like, I romanticize about the idea of me sitting down in a comfy chair with a comfy environment, reading a book and just soaking in knowledge. I love that idea of growth and personal development and having that time. But I just fall asleep anytime I have a book in my hand. It doesn't matter what time of the day. It could be first thing in the morning, middle of the day, or at night. So I'm trying to figure out hacks of how I can learn. Now, one of my things that I've been really enjoying is watching YouTube videos made from content creators that are specific to give, intended to give specific pieces of information. And Dan Martell is somebody who I picked up on recently. I've known about him, had people recommend his book, but I started watching his YouTube and I committed to myself, my business partner and I, Lewis, committed, let's go through this book together. So we're both listening to the Audible right now of Buy Back Your Time and sending each other text messages. So that's another little hack is find somebody to go through a book with you at the same time. That's what we're doing right now. And we're also incorporating that as we're doing our 2025 planning and having reoccurring business owner meetings going forward and help reinforce that. So I'll double down. Dan Martell really helped kind of expand my mind of how can I do this whole thing better.
All right, Jason, give us these two answers, then dip. Favorite guest on the pod and your biggest change this year.
Favorite guest on the pod this year. The one that jumped out to me just right off you asking that was Kong. I loved his energy.
Same answer.
We got a ton of engagement from the audience. Everybody was like, dude, we love this guy. We need to bring him back again. We've got to get him to come out to do Deal Champs in the future for sure. Just because I loved it, dude. I love that story, that background, like coming from nothing and like coming here, dude. And I just loved everything about him. So he was my favorite guest of this year. What was the last question?
Biggest thing you plan on changing this year?
Biggest thing I plan on changing. It's interesting. I'm going to flip that around, dude. We are more dialed than we've ever been in our business ever. Like ever to this point. 10 years in, this is year 10 for me, right? And I think we have spent 10 years changing, evolving, adapting, doing a bunch of things. And the change for me is to stick with what we built, the system that we built, and run the play consistently and just do. So when we went to CG, Jason Medley said, the people and the business operators that are going to be successful during this market cycles are the ones that can do the boring shit longer than everybody else. And that's what we're doing, dude. That's my mandate to my team. We are going to stick to the fundamentals and we are going to be better at answering the phone. We're going to be better at qualifying leads. We're going to be better and faster at underwriting deals, getting back to the sellers, making offers, following up, and all the other steps in our process. We're not changing anything. We're just going to stick with what works, dude. And I think that's my big thing, big initiative for 2025.
What about you, Dino?
I mean, honestly, my answers are the exact same. I'd say Kong Lee, his story is a wake up moment for anybody that listens to it that has excuses as to why they can't figure it out. I mean, the fact that he was literally living in a shed with an extension cable to get power for makeshift lights and all this kind of stuff and made it happen. I mean, what an incredible story. And he's incredibly humble. As much as he likes to share his wins and flash his stuff.
But he's still very humble, bro.
When you're in front of him, face to face, he does nothing but praise you. Like every time I'm around him, he's just telling me how grateful he is for me. And all. I'm like, what are you talking about? You're King Kong. Like you're the one with the inspirational story. What are you talking about? And so he's definitely a gift to Earth, in my opinion. So it was great to have him on. It's been great to get to know him each and every year more and more. The past couple of years I've known him. And I'd say for, was it, what am I going to do different? Is that what it was? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, honestly, my answer is the same as Jason's, but I'll say it the opposite way is I'm going to cut out the distractions this year. And what has helped me be successful so far and continues to be is just being focused and consistent. And, for many years, by the way, like I didn't have these $165,000 deals to flash because I needed to get better. I needed to improve our skills. And as I hired people on, I needed to do better at training them. So part of what is, held me back from performing at the level now is by having other distractions and trying to do too many other things. So this year is undoubtedly, as I was just talking about with my calendar and just focusing my day on those handful of goals and priorities is just to be so dialed in that much more. And I know that's going to transfer and transition to the team, help them be more dialed in, help them be more accountable. We just talked about it in our team meeting today about how we're going to be so much more accountable with each other. We're going to be reviewing our own personal goals each and every month. We're going to be reviewing our business goals each and every month. And we have weekly Friday meetings with the team members to just refocus back on. So these are all new things that we're implementing to help us stay dialed in.
Awesome. Thank you. My guest was the ADU guy, bro. Because I
love Derek.
Derek is
awesome.
So fucking congruent, and like he's not going after what I'm going after. Like his philosophy is completely different than mine. But I have never met such a congruent person who's like, this is what I love doing. This is what I'm doing. I'm happy. Like that's what I loved about Derek.
Hell yeah.
And for me, I would say there's nothing I really want to change, because I'd say for all three of us, we are actively trying to keep an eye out on where our holes are and what we need to change. And I'd say, if anything, I just have to keep myself focused. Stratton Brown has to stay focused, because when Stratton Brown doesn't stay focused, things don't go well.
Yeah,
right?
right.
And so stay focused.
Yep.
All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. This was a great episode. Do not forget, where are we? We're in Stockton on the 19th?
18th.
18th.
Saturday, January 18th.
Dean's not even going to be there, and he knows. Saturday, January 18th. We're going to be in Stockton, California, giving you guys free game on how to start a real estate business, run a real estate business. It's going to be 4 or 5 hours long. We give it all away for free. And then next week, the summit, and you guys won't want to miss that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.
Peace.